Right then, what we're going to do in this video clip is look at PST number 10, which is meeting vehicles, crossing vehicles, overtaking vehicles, allowing adequate clearance and anticipation. Okay, so that's quite a mouthful, yeah. But the thing is that you only ever get 3 out of the 5. Okay, so you will always have adequate clearance and you will always have anticipation. And anticipation is the most important part of this lesson. That, you know, as soon as you move the car, you need to get them to be anticipating the situation that might actually develop. Okay, so anticipation is the kind of core of the lesson, and then you've got adequate clearance, and then you'll have one of either meet, cross, or overtake. So only on the day of the test, when you go to the test and you find out what lesson that's going to be, and the exam will give you that information. Okay, so just to clarify that, you'll only get 3 out of 5, okay, but you will always have adequate clearance and anticipation, and then you'll do one of meet, cross, or overtake. Okay, more often than not it's going to be meeting vehicles. I would say 70 to 80% of the time it's probably meeting vehicles, but they do have to cover crossing and overtaking, so you know, you never know, you've got to be prepared for each one basically. So you've got to have a brief kind of set aside. It doesn't have to change much. The idea is you just alter it slightly, so you'd spend, instead of, you know, have your brief for meeting vehicles and adequate clearance and anticipation, and then the only bit you would change is the meeting bit. You know, you would cover it anyway, but you would just add in a bit for crossing and then add in a bit if you were overtaking. I'll do that at the end of the brief as I deliver that. Okay. So the examiner again will give you his normal little spiel. He'll say to you that he's familiar with the make and model of the car, because it's what he usually has his lessons in, and that his other instructor can't be here today, so you've stepped in to take the lesson for him. And he's had maybe, I don't know, maybe 15 hours of training. He might give you some kind of ballpark figure like that. And today's lesson is going to be on meeting vehicles, adequate clearance and anticipation. So that's something along the lines of what he'll say, yeah. Or if it was crossing, he wouldn't say meet, he would say cross. Or if it was overtake, he would say overtake. Okay, so that's the idea behind that. So yeah, just being prepared for all 3 really is one of the things you've got to be thinking about. So I'm going to go into roll and play the dual roll as before. Okay, and I'm going to do the personal greeting, clarify the lesson, and do a plan of action, and then we're going to go into the brief from there basically. And again, at the end of that, I'll add in a little bit for if we're crossing or overtaking. Okay, so we're going to start with that to begin with, and we'll see how that goes. Okay, so what you would do first, again, it's, you know, you just go into the same kind of situation as we have before. So I'm going to go into roll and we'll see how that goes. Okay. Hello John, my name's Innes. Is it okay if I call you John? Yes, that's fine. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, just call me John. Well, I'm Innes, so nice to meet you. You can just call me Innes, okay? I believe your other instructor can't be here today, so I'm stepping in and taking the lesson for you. But the other instructor has got the same car as this, so he said that you can be familiar with the make and model of this vehicle. Is that correct? Yeah, it's correct. Yeah, I know he's got the same car, so I know what everything is. I know all the controls and that, so yeah, it's quite good with being having the same car. Yeah, well, I think that's why he gave me a shout, because I've got the same car, so it would make sense, wouldn't it? He also mentioned that today's lesson is going to be on meeting vehicles, allowing adequate clearance and also anticipation. Is that correct? Does that ring any bells with you? Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mentioned that at the end of the last lesson, that's what we're going to do. There were some issues with that, and he was going to introduce these new things to me. Right, that's good then. So that's what we're going to do today. So what we'll do first of all is I'll ask you a few questions to begin with, just to find out what you've done already with the last lessons that you've been doing. And we can also maybe see if we can make a link to what you've done previous to today's lesson, and see if we can correspond things. So it might not be necessarily anything new to you. Okay, but once we ask you a few questions, we'll give you a brief on meeting vehicles, allowing clearance and also anticipation. And then once we've given the brief, we'll go out to have a wee bit of practice on that out on the road, and we'll come across a few situations. And I'll give you lots of help and support to begin with, but hopefully as the lesson progresses, I'll reduce that level of instruction. So by the end of the lesson, you will be able to deal with these aspects, you know, completely by yourself or with little help from me. Okay, how does that sound to you? Well, that sounds great. Yeah, that's brilliant. Right then, so just a bit of Q&A on what you've done previously. What was your last lesson on? We're doing kind of we had done lots of junctions, and we had actually covered a couple of roundabouts as well, and there were some pedestrian crossings in there that he was pointing them out to me. All right, that's good. That's good. So as you were dealing with these kind of situations, what routine were you using? If I mentioned the hazard routine, would you know would you know what that means? Oh, the hazard routine. Is that's the MSM routine? That's right, MSM routine. Yeah, that's right. So what does that stand for? What does MSM stand for? Oh, mirror signal manoeuvre. That's right. Yeah, mirror signal manoeuvre. Fantastic. And did you break down the manoeuvre at all? Did your instructor sort of break that down into other little sections? Oh yeah, he did actually. Yeah, it's position, slowing down, and looking. That's right. Yeah, there's a position, speed, and look. Yeah. And you've also got the LADA as well. Would you know what LADA means? Oh yeah, that's the. Oh no, wait a second. Look, decide, assess, and act. Is that right? Nyardy, yeah, Nyardy. Look, assess. So LADA. Look, assess, and then decide and act. Yeah. So you'd have been using all that with the junctions and like a pedestrian crossing. So you know if you're approaching a crossing, you've got to look and assess that situation, don't you? And be prepared to stop. Ah, that's right, I do, yeah. Well, that's the same skills we're going to use today. Everything revolves around this hazard drill. So with the likes of, you know, meeting vehicles, allowing clearance and anticipation, that all revolves around that hazard drill because it's all about dealing with hazards, yeah. So if you meet a vehicle, you have to deal with that and you have to then, you know, act accordingly and look and assess and decide what you're going to do about that. And we're going to explain a little bit of that in the brief, okay? So if I get my wee presenter out here, okay, we've seen one of them before? Oh aye, he's got something similar to that, yeah. It's not as clear and colourful as that one, but it's something similar. Well, that's good. It's good that you're familiar with something like it anyway. So what we're going to have a look at this diagram and see how we can explain a little bit what to do. Okay, so imagine that this is us here. We're travelling on the road just down here. Okay, and let's say we're in fourth gear, travelling at sort of 30 miles an hour. Okay, and what we're going to do is anticipate what's happening. So anticipation comes, you know, as soon as we move the car. So again, if you even look out of the window there, you'll see the parked cars all along the side of the road there, all the way up to the very end. Oh, hi, yeah, see that? So what we need to anticipate is a car that might come in round that corner. Okay, because if a car comes in round that corner, we'll have to give way to that, won't we? Oh, so we will actually, yeah, we will have to, yeah. So we've got a situation where we anticipate, but always anticipating what might happen. And then if we anticipate it, we can be ready for it. Okay, so imagine again on the diagram here, you've got the parked cars, don't you? But just before that, got a wee kid with a ball. Yeah, so what might happen with that wee kid with the ball? Oh, they might drop the ball. Yeah, they might drop the ball. And if they drop the ball, what could they do then? Oh, maybe run after it. Exactly, yeah. So if you spot that, what would be the first thing you would check if you spotted a hazard like that up ahead? Oh, I would check my mirrors. That's right, you check your mirrors, yeah. So we're looking ahead and we're thinking about what's happening, and if we spot any hazards, we check our mirrors, and then what we can do is come off the gas pedal and start to slow down, okay? Because then we'll have to look, yeah, L-E-D-A. We'll have to look, assess, and decide what we're going to do about that, okay? So the thing is, we're always anticipating these situations happening. So we've got the kid with the ball, yeah, and then we've got the parked cars. So just like out there, we've got the parked cars there. So if we've got parked cars, we've got to think about the car that might be coming towards us, because that's what's going to make us hold back, because we'll have to give way to that situation. Okay, so we check our mirrors, yeah, and we might have to consider a signal, yeah, but we also might have to adjust the position. So if you were turning right from a major road into a minor road, what position would you take up? Oh, just left of centre, I think it is. That's right, just left of centre. Okay, so you can see the way the car comes out here, and it comes along just left of centre, because that's the overtaking position. Okay, and you also want to hold back from the parked cars. So at least one, if not two car lengths, because that gives you a good view of the road ahead, and it also lets other people behind you know what you're planning on doing, because if you've got a good position, you may not have to signal. Yeah, because if people know what you're planning on doing, yeah, then you don't have to signal your intentions, because they already know your intentions. Okay, so we'll certainly consider it, and then depending on the situation, we'll decide whether to put it on or not. But quite often your position will give you information on what you're planning. Okay, so if their car comes, we have to wait back in this hold back position, allow the car to come through, and then drive on. Okay, and we're also anticipating again that coming through, so there may be occasions where we don't actually have to stop. Yeah, if we plan it out correctly and anticipate it, we might actually be able to keep the car moving. Yeah, but getting no closer than one car length. But that's the thing, 1 to 2 car lengths you're holding back there. So as we drive on through, let's say again nothing's coming, we've got a gap to go, we've got a drive going through, and this is where clearance comes in. So this is where you've got your car door here, don't you? So if a car door might open, what kind of clearance would you want to give for that? Oh, a bit of car door's width maybe. Yeah, exactly, yeah, so you're coming along there and you want to leave a bit of car door's width, so the idea is someone opens the door, you're not going to take it away. Yeah, and you've also got looking sort of situations in between cars where, you know, pedestrians might walk through. So again, in that situation that we have up here, okay, if you look out the window, there's actually not much room there. So there is a situation where if the gap's quite small, we can't leave a car door's width. And we have a guidance for that. We've got 30, 20 and 10 miles per hour. Okay, so 30, 10, 20 and 10, and that links with 3 foot, 2 foot, 1 foot. So if you're travelling about 30 miles an hour, you must leave at least a 3 foot gap. Yeah. If your gap's smaller than that, then you reduce your speed to about 20, and then if you got a 1 foot gap, you reduce the speed to about 10 miles an hour. So, you know, we've probably have a gap there of maybe 2 feet on either side of the vehicle. So we're looking to be about maybe 15, 20 miles an hour as we drive up there, maybe even a little bit slower because it is quite narrow. Okay, so that's the thing is, when we pass parked cars, you leave that clearance if you can, but there is occasions where you can't leave that clearance. So the smaller the gap, the slower you go. Okay, and also looking over, under and through. Yeah, so over vehicles, under vehicles, through their windows. So if you're coming along here, if that was a wee kid, if you look under it, you'll see its feet. If it was an adult, you could look through the windows and see their body. Yeah, so you're always looking ahead for information and anticipating what might happen. So we're coming on through there, leaving our clearance, and then we've got to come back to our side. Okay, so what would you do if you're going to come back there? What would you check before you come back in? Oh, check my mirrors. That's right, you're going to check your mirrors. So which ones would you check? Well, the middle and the left one. Exactly. So you're looking again, you've got this sort of cyclist here. So we're checking and looking to make sure that it's going to be safe to come back over, so we don't shave the vehicle as we come back in. Okay, and then you would drive on. So it's all about that basic hazard rule. Yeah, you've got your mirror, you've got to consider the signal, you take up a good position if you're having to overtake, and then you start to think about assessing that situation and adjusting your speed and gear to suit that situation. Yeah, and that's the bit that'll differ because every situation is a little bit different. Okay, but we're looking, assessing the situation and deciding what we do about it, looking out for these hazards and anticipating them happening, because if we anticipate them happening, we are much more prepared and ready to deal with them. Okie dokie. How does that sound to you? Well, that sounds great, that sounds fine. Excellent. Right, we're going to have a wee bit of practice of that and see how we get on. So there, that's the meeting situation. Yeah, if you're doing crossing traffic, you would just move it down to a situation, you know, if you have a presenter or some sort like that, just bring it down, because crossing traffic is just what they've done before with junctions. Yeah, so there's not much difference. It's all about judging the gap. Okay, so we've got the situation where if it's safe to walk across, it's safe to drive across. So that's probably the easier one out of the three. yeah. But because at the test centre you've got all the parked cars up the side of the road, you're going to have to deal with anticipating that meeting situation. So that's the emphasis again on anticipation, and that's when you're crossing traffic, you're anticipating the gap as well. If it was overtaking, you would flip the page. There we are. So flip the page for overtaking, and you've got sort of overtaking stuff on dual carriageways and slow moving vehicles. Yeah. So more often than not in our area you're going to be on the dual carriageway because there's no other situation that we can overtake. So you've got to anticipate that overtaking situation. So coming on and off the slipwoods or the dual carriageways isn't going to be a problem. What's going to be a problem is again the anticipation. So anticipating cars that might be on or joining the slipwood. So if you're on the carriageway, you might have to anticipate cars joining. So if you've got an exit going off, up ahead you're going to have an exit coming on. Yeah, so that's anticipation. And then of course you've got the slower moving vehicles, such as maybe a tractor or a lorry. So you're anticipating, and that's your job to get them thinking, anticipating further ahead. So you can then deal with it accordingly. So you can start using your MSM routine nice and early. And the problems come from leaving it too late. That's the biggest problem they have. They don't anticipate the situation, so therefore everything's late, and they start to move out and change lanes without checking their mirrors and all sorts of things like that. And the worst thing in the dual carriageway is that you can't pull over. There's nowhere to stop, so you've got to keep on going. So you have to do it on the move. You don't have an option. Yeah, but if you're good at preventing it, that's the key. So get them looking and planning ahead. Get them anticipating the situation. Think about what they're going to do with, checking the mirrors and looking at these slow moving vehicles. If you've got a lorry in front of you, then his speed limit is maybe 50 or 60 miles an hour depending on the road that they're on. Yeah. And if it's climbing a big hill, he's going to be going a lot slower. So that's the thing to anticipate. And then you've got your 2-second rule with the clearance as well. So 2-second rule comes in sort of 25 30 miles an hour and above. Anything below that is your thinking distance. So that's to do with clearance as well. Yeah, so it's not just passing the car. The clearance is about following cars as well. Okay, so that's something to bear in mind. And as you come up to stationary traffic, you get your tyres and your tarmac. So that's something to bear in mind. That's a fault that they can do. So if you've got your tyres and tarmac, you don't necessarily have to do that in the briefs. That comes on again more on the move. Yeah, but that's things to kind of bear in mind. But for the brief itself, it's all about anticipation and using your MSM routine. Considering the 2-second rule for overtaking, moving that into 1 second, and then final checking the mirrors as you go past, leaving the clearance, yeah, so much more than a door's width, yeah, because at that speed you're going to need up to maybe about 6 feet, yeah, and then coming back in and using your mirrors, so making sure you can see him in the middle mirror before you actually come back over. Okay, so that gives you examples of what to do, yeah, whether it's overtaking, whether it's crossing, or whether it's meeting. Okay, so I hope that helps, and we'll be in touch soon with other videos for you as well. Okay, see you later.